Fly Me to the Moon is out in theaters. It's a period rom-com starring Channing Tatum and Scarlett Johansson. And Scarlett Johansson plays this PR woman who's just top of her game, and she gets recruited by the government to essentially rebrand NASA because at the start of the 1960s, people were very gung-ho about getting to the moon, and not so much towards the end of the decade, even though, per President Kennedy, it was like, we're going to put a man on the moon before 1970, and that was legit their goal. In order to achieve that, they need a rebrand, aka an influx of money. So that's kind of the setup, the backdrop, if you will, of this whole thing. But it's really uplifted by Scarlett Johansson and Channing Tatum. Channing Tatum plays the director down in Florida who's in charge of, that section of NASA and essentially making sure that Apollo 11 is a successful mission, right? It's less about kind of the mechanics of NASA achieving this. It's more about Scarlett Johansson's rebrand of NASA, getting it to kind of the everyday mindset of people. And there's a clash of heads there because Scarlett Johansson, wants to push things forward and sees everything as a sales opportunity, essentially. And that goes very much against what this idyllic version of, Channing Tatum represents. Just kind of about the goodness of humanity, achieving great things and so forth. And what makes it a true rom-com is obviously they both impart lessons on each other, blah, blah, blah. So you kind of know where that side of it is headed, but how it gets there and how they navigate, kind of this whole thing with NASA and the public and so forth is really the fun of it all. Now, if you've seen the trailers make it more about kind of, hey, we have to, fake the moon landing, this sort of thing. And that is a big component of it, but it doesn't come until later on, and the way it does is actually very clever, and it ends up like culminating into this wonderful, wonderful crescendo that I will not spoil. But, so if you go into it kind of just expecting that, you might be a little bit disappointed. But overall, the trailer does set what the tone of the movie is going to be, which is just really fun and stuff like that. Is it a perfect movie? No movie ever is. Again, it's unconcerned about the mechanics of how they pull off this big feat of getting to the moon. More about, like I said, the money and making sure that NASA is front of mind, So it's more, in that sense, Scarlett's story, in terms of the mechanics versus... putting a man on the moon, which there have been plenty of movies that you can go watch about that sort of thing. But I do appreciate that this movie is essentially, it's a feel-good movie, right? It's uplifting. It's in some ways inspiring. And even though I keep harping on that it doesn't focus on, the how-to of getting to the moon, we know history. We know where it's going. We're going to put a man on the moon and stuff like that. And so when you see that, especially in the context of this movie, it's just really riveting, and so forth. You leave feeling good, and for all the flaws of the movie, whatever they are, they're very much forgivable for that aspect, that you just leave the movie feeling a little bit about life in general. And so for all those reasons, I appreciate Fly Me to the Moon. I thought I would enjoy it, but I actually ended up enjoying it far more than I even anticipated. But as always, let me know what you think and down in the comments. If you agree, disagree, doesn't matter, as long as you're respectful. And, you want to talk spoilers, let's do it. Just denote it as such. Thank you.